Experts in the health sector are tasking the federal government to make women's uterine health a priority due to the burden of fibroid, abnormal uterine bleeding, chronic pelvic pain, and menopause impacting millions of Nigerian women. Well, to address the issues, there has been a strategic discussion on uterine health and its public health importance in Nigeria. Experts said that with uterine health missing from the key national framework, it has become imperative for the government to give it a priority. Where data by the Medical Association of Women's Health indicates that uterine fibroids are extremely common, affecting approximately 12% of Nigerian women, about 12.8 million women worldwide, while endometriosis affects up to 48.1% symptomatic Nigerian women, causing severe pelvic pain, painful menstruation, and infertility, with diagnosis taking between 7 to 10 years.
These conditions are not rare, we know that they're not fringe, and yet we know that they're largely absent from how we think about our health systems in building. And so we know that what is missing is not only coverage of data, but it is the recognition. And that's why I love the words around access, dignity, important, that we've echoed here today.
We affirm our collective will to change this narrative. We aim to place uterine health at the center of national policies in Nigeria and Africa, financing and service delivery, moving it from margins of awareness into the mainstream of Nigerian health and development agenda.
It calls for a transforming of our minds, a change to how we approach women's health, recognizing that their health is not solely based on their capacity to carry pregnancy and their capacity to deliver safely.
We should be looking at equity, and we should be looking at that access. We should be looking at that collaboration to effectively make sure that we integrate reproductive, paternal, newborn, child, adolescent, and older person's health and nutrition.
I'm now being joined by Wurie, CEO and founder Uterus Health, and Dr. Nana Chidi Emmanuel, board chairperson, White Ribbon Alliance Nigeria. Ladies, glad to have you join me on Arise News 9. Let me start with you, Dr. Nana. For purposes of clarity and education, when we say uterine health, what are we actually talking about?
Uterine health essentially speaks to the overall wealth and well-being of the uterus in terms of its ability to function and to carry out the roles it's expected to do with regards to menstruation, with regards to carrying a pregnancy, and of course with regards to being able to deliver and have safe childbirth. So that's very critical, that it carries out this role functionally, normally, and being able to enjoy, the lady is able to enjoy and achieve all of this within her reproductive years. Fantastic.
Now, you talked about burden. How much of a burden is this issue of uterine health to women, particularly to women and in Nigeria as a whole? How does it impact them physically and mentally?
It's significant. The burden cannot be understated. And the sad part, the unfortunate part of it is that we don't have enough data to fully quantify the extensive burden of uterine conditions, for example, uterine fibroids on women. So 80% of all women in the world are most likely to have a fibroid at some point in their life. 70% of that disproportionately affects Black women, African women, women in Nigeria, women in Sierra Leone, women across Africa. We get bigger fibroids, they're much more aggressive, they start much younger, and for the continent, we're finally saying that chronic pain should not be normalized. And because we're told to bear the pain, we're told that it's a woman's role if she's bleeding heavily, we don't seek out care enough. And so that burden is, I keep saying it is severely, what we do know is severely underestimated. I'll leave you with a few statistics. In my own country of Sierra Leone, 1 in 3 women have fibroids. In Nigeria, for some of the small clinical studies that have been done, we're at 30%. Now imagine if we're to take a big look at it, a comprehensive, invest in a comprehensive approach to looking at the statistics. I'm quite sure we know that would be far more.
Yeah. It will be interesting to know, in addition to the question I want to ask before, because of what she's raised, what causes fibroid? I mean, For example, I had a sister-in-law who had that. You know, but what causes it? Just add that to, where are the gaps in how these are being tackled, the health, social and economic implications? Those two questions.
With regards to fibroid, the uterine health is beyond fibroid. You have endometriosis, of course you have dysfunctional uterine bleeding where women are continuously bleeding and so they are uncomfortable. There are women who bleed more than almost all through the month. They bleed beyond the period of menstruation. And with the fibroid, the main cause is not known. However, there are predisposing factors and it's known that you can just assume that, like one of our professors did say, that it was just a response of a uterus that was unable to achieve a pregnancy. Okay. So when you get, every month you're expected to have your menstrual period, and then of course it's expectant that there will be fertility and there will be fertilization taking place. But when that doesn't happen, something else begins to occupy that space. And that's what fibroid does. So it affects single, married, it just affects as many. So of course they've talked about factors that when you start arcane menarche early, that there are factors that predisposes more. If you have a family history, there are many other factors. So when women do have fibroids, a lot of them don't know. They initially do not know they have the fibroids.
Oh, really?
Yes, they don't know, except when it's actually become large enough, or they begin to feel they have they go to the hospital because they notice they're probably going to use the restroom more often and urinating. So fibroid is something that's very common. It's also part of what causes infertility, which of course is a reason why a woman would access care. You know, it's a huge burden right now in this country.
So tackle, what are the gaps? And how are these being handled? The health, social, economic implications.
Oh, it's huge. The issue about uterine health starts with the fact that we need to strategize and integrate at the level of primary care, secondary care, tertiary care. Then the burden, out-of-pocket expenditure, because a woman has this responsibility to cater for her uterine health, and she has to go from place to place. There are misdiagnoses. The health providers that they meet are not well trained or informed on how to manage situations, and so they spend so much. Then there's a surgical implication. At every level of service provision, there is a different gap. So when you're talking about the healthcare service from the primary healthcare, there's no provision of service with regards to uterine conditions like fibroid. There's no provision. However, there needs to be an awareness, and at that level, and improve referral systems, as well as integrating into the reproductive, maternal, newborn, child health, and plus nutrition care that takes place at that level. But that's not existing right now. So we want to see that policies are in place, there's integration at all levels, and there's awareness and advocacy to ensure that funding to support, because of course, there's surgical interventions when you have surgery, fibroid. There needs to be a surgical intervention at some point, and that burden is huge.
All right, you've raised two issues that I want you to address. The question of awareness, the question of reforms. What practical opportunities are there for policy reform to either eliminate or reduce the prevalence of what we're discussing?
I think Dr. Nana spoke to that a little bit, but I want to emphasize the fact that we're even having this conversation right now. And we had that strategic roundtable led by the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare earlier today is actually historic, because we are actually saying that the way we think about women's health, African women's health, is beyond her ability to produce a child or to reproduce. And we know that uterine health is maternal health, is mental health, is social economic prosperity. Because what we are fundamentally, and Uterus as an organization, we believe in collaboration with the White Ribbon Alliance under the leadership of this government or governments across the continent, is to transform how we think about women's health. That's the first thing we're doing. That's the first pushback. That's what we're dispelling. And then secondly, when you're talking about reforms, you can't reform what you don't measure. So we are saying we need to invest in data, because you asked about the burden, and I say we can give you a couple of statistics, but we don't have enough data. And that is a disservice to the chronic pain that women adolescent girls experience. The second piece is African-based data. What are the women in our countries, in Nigeria, feeling and experiencing from a social, policy, economic level? Now, that's when you begin to think about reformation, because women have the answers. Governments already have a vision as to what transforming their primary health care, reaching universal health coverage looks like. But you can only do that when you're able to understand where women are, and then we're able to then connect that to the levers of real policy change, real financial change, and a real mental shift in how we see women, how we understand their pain, how we invest in ensuring that we have early, dignified, accessible care.
All right. Well, I think you've practically done a good work of trying to spread awareness. Thank you so much, Fatou Wurie, CEO and founder, Uterine Health, and Dr. Nana Chidi Emmanuel, both chairperson of White Ribbon Alliance Nigeria, for being here to talk about uterine health for women.